That seems long. I don't know why my macro broke. It worked just fine yesterday. Oh, and shit, I got like red lights all over the place. This is fine. Oh, we're streaming. We're totally live. Hey, guys. This is Geeks in Space number 503. I'm Rob Commander Taco Mold. That was some behind-the-scenes shenanigans and fun. I feel like I might have added an extra couple of zeros to the milliseconds of delay. Cool. All right, this is 503, The Lost Boys, and that cut off early too. Man, we're on top of things today. Everything is production quality. We're at the top of our game. It's mid-season form, and
we are all technology experts.
That's right. Well, and best of all, the movie disappeared from the screens, so I'm glad that we're streaming live just in time for that. So you guys talk about this movie while I go and find our.
Why we're only seeing the bottom half of it? Yeah.
Well, I was doing some research. I'm Cliff Lampy, by the way. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Cliff. Cliff Lampy, special guest. Chris
right.
DeBona, Rob Roseboom. They're less special. They're here every time.
Rob, go take care of the movie. We'll talk. Don't worry about it.
Have fun.
After watching, I was doing some research, as I do for these things, and one thing I didn't know before is that this was the original kind of treatment for this was basically like based off Peter Pan, right? Which is kind of why they kept the Lost Boys motif very briefly. But like the original treatment was around much younger children. And the kind of sentiment was, what if like Peter Pan and the Lost Boys in Neverland were actually just vampires, right? Like they only visited Wendy at all at night. They stayed perpetually young. Like that gave somebody kind of a vampire tingle. Mm-hmm. And so that was the original treatment. But then Schumacher thought kids aren't cool. Sexy teenagers are cool.
That's right.
Sexy teenagers.
Changed everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you get Shoemaker involved, you know it's fine. He's done some things. He and like Richard Donner are like special bucket directors for me, I think.
And they're both attached to this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
I love it. I had not seen this movie. I am guessing now since high school. That's where I was at with this, because I only remembered the maggot eating thing, Kiefer Sutherland's hair, and
it's fantastic.
I mean, what's weird to me is that I don't really even remember this as being like a Corey movie, but it's got so much Corey.
Both Corys.
Yeah, it's like maximum Corey. That made me happy because I have not seen such a good Corey movie.
This was the first time the Coreys appeared together.
Of their 7 appearances.
Oh my God, that's super depressing for them. I don't know.
I for sure saw this movie since high school because one of my roommates, this was his favorite movie. So we had the VHS tape that was watched. I can't tell you how many hundreds of times over the years, but it probably has been at least a decade since I saw this.
The most important note, of course, is that the roller coaster in the opening scenes is the same one from Us, which is Kathleen kept referring to that throughout our watching of that movie. She's like, "Oh, that's the same roller coaster as Lost Boys." Turns out, yep.
Huh. Yeah, no, I just know this because I've been to the Santa Cruz Boardwalk like a million times. It's just over the hill. Well, the hills that are all burning right now in California, just over those hills is this amusement park / beach.
Getting rid of vampires is not easy work.
Well, that's true. That's true.
I think they're kind of like the moths or like the locusts that come like on 7 and 14-year cycles. So this just is like a vampire year. So
yeah, it's a vampire burnout year. Yeah.
Let's see. This is you, Chris, 209.
That's all I wanted to say. Oh, 209. So if you hit play briefly, you'll see this rent-a-cop wait, pause. I must have gotten it wrong. This rent-a-cop kicks him out of the carousel, and it's like they don't respect his authority at all, And I don't know. That's all.
You think it might be a metaphor?
I think it might be.
I thought naming this Santa Carla was some of the laziest writing.
It's really true.
That's
I don't know why they just didn't go all in on Santa Cruz. I mean, you know.
I mean, I always felt like it's when you shoot a movie in the city, you want to like promote the city because then everybody from the city. It's like there was a movie that came out a while ago with the kid from How I Met Your Mother, the tall, skinny one, and it was based in Ann Arbor, and like the girl worked at Zingerman's or something, and I'm like, I bet Ann Arbor was the only movie theater that even came close to selling out an entire
Oh,
auditorium.
are you talking about Jumper?
No, that also took place in Ann Arbor.
It did.
Yeah.
This was the one with Jason Segel and Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
The problem is that they dumped all over Ann Arbor.
Oh, for
in that
sure.
movie, right? The core premise of that movie was how hellish it was to live in the Midwest.
It's a nightmare. We hate it. Suckers. Enjoy your burning skies, California.
Hey,
I
at
can
least
see,
it's not
I can see
Earthquake Day.
Santa Cruz not wanting the press on this though, because they had just gotten over kind of murder capital of the world status, right? Because there'd been a string of
No.
high profile serial killers there, like not too long
Was
before
there?
this movie came out. Yeah, like
Seriously?
Ed Kemper and like really like serious like 71 people over 3 years or something like that. Where
Gosh.
like, it was,
I didn't know that Edmund Kemper was here. Wow. That's terrible.
Oh, I had a typo. So my note on all of this is there are a couple of things that occur constantly throughout this movie, which is tons of chopper shots, like really kind of shaky. I mean, I'm sure for the time, very well done chopper shots, but we're using it for like vampire flight. We're using it for like he's being chased down by the vampire, and it gets overdone. The other thing that they do an awful lot of is like really slow blends, really slow fades, and just like, and they just did it previously to this shot where like you get the roller coaster way too long superimposed over the next shot. It's a stylistic thing. It annoys me, but I did kind of like all the chopper shots here.
somebody had just gotten their first Amiga video toaster.
You're probably right. Let's see. The next one's Rob. I hope we were watching the same version of the movie because Chris's timestamp was off. This is 307, Rob.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think this is for sure the first time I remember, but might be the first time in a movie that they had vampires actually flying without turning into bats or mist or some sort of hybrid creature. It was just kind of neat, I thought.
But also, it's funny how very rarely they actually show a human being not on the ground. It's like mostly chopper shots. It's pretty sparing use of effects. I had a hard time figuring out what the vampire rules were for this movie because they feel like they're walking around in sunlight during some scenes, right? So
But then
No.
later, yeah.
isn't
No.
he? Okay, all right.
No.
I felt
Yeah,
like
it was
they
all
were-
at night on the boardwalk, and then they attacked the guy, and yeah.
I thought there was a lot of maybe it was just well lit rooms. I felt like there was a lot of sunlight stuff happening.
I think there was some clever editing, like where they interspersed scenes so that you felt like they were connected,
That could
which
be.
is a nice filming tactic.
Well, I mean, the rules aren't clear, though. To be clear,
In fact, there's the scene when Kiefer is chasing them out of their lair. He bursts into fire when sun touches him.
Oh, okay.
yeah. But remember, Star and Laddie, I guess they hadn't partaken of their
Right.
first kill yet.
Michael-
which is kind of
Michael either.
weird. And Michael, so they were able to tolerate some level of sunniness.
Yeah, and there was all like I don't know. I just had a hard time. Like every version of the vampire mythology kind of takes little tiny bits of leeway to make
liberty.
their own version of it. Kat's point on this, which I guess I wasn't really aware of, is that she says that this is the first like modern example of the sexy vampire, but specifically like the coven of vampires, like the vampire group.
Yeah.
Dracula could be sexy, but you wouldn't have like the Spike and his girlfriend pairing, like things like that, which would be very common, by a decade later.
No, it's true. This movie was kind of very pre-sentimental towards the whole Buffy the Vampire Slayer thing, right?
Well, it's the sort of precursor to all the Anne Rice style vampires. You know?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got our first Corey.
That's from my grooving on a Sunday
Pouring one out for Corey Haim, man.
Yeah, man. And this was after he did the movie where he was abused by Charlie Sheen, apparently. So this is the movie he did after that.
Dark,
so.
man.
It is dark, you know. That kid got rolled by Hollywood, man. Not okay.
Murder capital of the world.
Well, so ironically, I didn't really put together the Edwin Kemper and the other serial killer stuff about Santa Cruz, but when this happened, when this movie came out, at the time, DC was fighting with East Palo Alto for the crown of murder capital of the world. Right? So,
The vaunted, the much desired.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, you know, basically wherever I go, right when I get there, they stop being the murder capital of the world. And I'm not saying that I'm the Batman, but I might be the Batman.
You could be the Batman.
Could be.
Maybe
but
you're
I'm
just
not.
like a
So-
Batman.
So one of the great things about this is it's so funny having Cliff tell me about the serial killers. Like, so this missing family member photo thing, they after September 11th, this became like a motif in a bunch of movies in Battlestar Galactica and the rest. This was pre that though, so this might be the first movie that used these in this manner, you know,
Like
So,
the
I don't
overwhelming
know.
Lost board. I don't know. They're also worried about
Yeah.
the UFOs though. So I feel like this is just like a family fare. And like this is just like it's like you need a roommate or guitar lessons or UFOs.
Yeah.
That's just what it's like here in the murder capital.
Yeah, well, I mean, the anti-A bomb and H bomb stuff is very Santa Cruz, you know. So stop. Pause.
Okay,
So-
yeah. You please. I need help here.
Okay, so here's the thing about the boardwalk. They have a whole like paper mache caveman thing going in half a dozen rides, right? And it's honestly, it's super grody. It's like covered in like nasty like dust and suntan oil, I swear to God. But like they have a dark ride with like lots of like UV lit like weird cavemen scenes. It's sort of like if Pirates in the Caribbean was just completely done by stoners who thought, man, blacklights are super cool and we could have like cavemen in here, it'll be great. And
Okay,
it's like
no. Now I need to ask some questions. here.
grody. Yeah.
So okay, are there more than one of this guy?
Oh, and well, there's a whole family, and they repeat in various rides.
Okay, so so this guy is always sitting in this chair. Like if you, during this era,
Yeah, he's glued in.
He's glued
so
in.
This,
Okay.
this chair is the guy chair. Yeah.
All right.
So.
All right, so you hang out and watch the caveman chair. Got
Yeah,
it.
they pass by. There's like one or two of them on this ride. You know, it's a gondola. You know, it's
Sure.
a ski lift, right?
That's fun.
Oh gosh, Bernard Hughes, 72 years old when he was doing this.
Really?
Yeah,
Doesn't look a day over 65.
right.
All right, this is you, Cliff.
Dad. Oh,
I think I don't remember what I was pointing out here. Just Jason Patrick. You know what kind of happened to him is one of the points I had for this. Right, like you see them together. Oh, I remember what it was. It was that they had moved. This is where they announced they had moved from Phoenix, and I'm like, Vampire Capital of the World is still better than downtown Phoenix.
That's right.
Yeah.
For all of our Phoenix listeners, screw you guys.
No, it's just their brains are already cooked by the heat, so I
Yeah.
feel really bad for them. You know, I have nothing but sympathy.
And this is the introduction to who I have decided now rewatching as an adult, the greatest character of this movie, Grandpa.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved Grandpa when I was a kid,
He's fantastic.
but oh my, every scene is gold. You know, there isn't one scene where he doesn't amuse me. He's great.
The thing that surprised me, and I had no recollection of Grandpa whatsoever, and it was a fair bit of way into the movie before I realized that taxidermy was just his running gag, and like at every available opportunity, like he's given ladies like stuffed beavers, like it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, you can give Schumacher a little credit for kind of the undertone there of like Grandpa's whole motif is kind of these undead things, and the movie's about undead things, right? Like,
Totally.
Hold on a second. I have an important correction to make.
Uh-oh.
It turns out that Fright Night, which definitely had sexy vampires, predated Lost Boys.
Did it have like a coven of sexy vampires?
No, but it had vampires and their familiars. So
All right.
Yeah, vampires don't go in covens. Witches do.
Oh, I'm sorry. Packs,
really, Rob?
herds,
Nests, I think.
nests. All right, yeah, that sounds Buffy-like. I feel like Buffy would have gone and attacked a nest. That makes more sense. All right, here was the line that got me.
Picture. There's no TV. Have you seen a TV? I haven't seen a TV, Mike. You know what it means when there's no TV? No MTV.
If there's no TV, there's no MTV.
This was a big deal though back then. I remember when we first started seeing it. Started with Friday Night Videos, and then that spawned the MTV Music Channel. It was incredible. You could learn new things about music.
No. MTV was about watching Pauly Shore as the Weasel, and then you would wait for a video to start, and then they would play Poison's Unskinny Bop 37 times a day.
It was eventually, but not at first.
Yeah. We used to, Friday Night Videos was a big deal. That's all I'm going to say.
So this was the line where I think we just missed it, but Grandpa is talking about how he gets the TV guide even though he doesn't have a TV, because if you read the TV guide, you don't need a TV.
Have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. Don't need a TV.
Bam.
Yeah. So,
Grandpa.
and this was also the time I decided that I'm gonna not highlight every Grandpa quote because
They're all so good.
it just gets redundant.
Yep.
So yeah.
But
The weirdest party ever.
right? But we are also coming to what might be. I mean, no disrespect to Grandpa or let's say Kiefer Sutherland's amazing hair. We might have the greatest character to ever appear on film.
Well, the weird thing is this isn't really a character.
No,
This is that guy. Like, he's an actual musician.
Yep.
He traveled with Tina Turner. He really is that buff and everything. This is not an actor. That's the actual musician.
Tim
He really doesn't
Capello.
own a shirt.
Yeah.
Tim Capello
He's,
is his name.
he's never had a shirt.
I love
Sick.
the chains are on the neck and the wrist. I'm going to totally do that.
Yeah.
it's really too bad that the saxophone is not like a cool instrument in a band really anymore. Like only if you're like a weird artsy band are you gonna see a saxophone. Like back in the day, man, you'd have Clarence with his saxophone, or like Kenny G was just oozing human sexuality. The boys and the girls were just all about Kenny G's sexy receding hairline.
And Bill Clinton wouldn't play the saxophone on Arsenio Hall show until 1992, 6 years later. So this was the guy. He was the sax guy, right? And everyone who's seen this movie is like, man, that was a heck of a movie. But what was up with the sax guy? Everybody, literally everybody. They're just like, what was with the weird baby oiled sax guy with the chain?
For about the next 5 minutes of watching this movie in Kat and I's home, it was us discussing when Mr. Sexomophone is coming back because we liked Mr. Sexomophone.
Yeah, this whole concert, is just it's a riot. It's so funny. Like people are dancing super awkward, and they're all like looking at each other. Look, I'm looking at you with my soulful eyes. Meanwhile, sax guy is like, wah! And the other thing I noted was that it turns out if you read the Wikipedia entry for Lost Boys, Jason Patrick was just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Well, maybe if you bring Jamie Gertz in, and I'm like,
The Gertz.
like, because Solar Babies, that was a movie. And they were in it together, and they just nailed. I mean, you remember Solar Babies winning the Oscar that year for Best Picture, right?
Oh,
Best,
for sure.
best special effects, best roller skating since Xanadu,
Yeah, I mean,
Best screenplay.
ball thing,
best production by Mel Brooks, funded by Spaceballs profits.
This is how I like you people. I didn't pick effing Solar Babies when it was my turn, because it's just like no. Sorry.
I don't know whose turn it is, but I think you might have just thrown down the gauntlet.
It's mine.
Oh, then it ain't gonna be Solar Babies.
Girls won't do that to us.
Nope.
No, I already know what we're gonna watch. I'll tell you when we're done.
Excellent.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
It's not Solar Babies though.
Now we did discuss pretty extensively in my home that Jamie Gertz sits atop one of the pyramids of like the hotties of my youth.
Oh yeah,
I will
her
always.
and Mia Sarah are just right there.
Ooh,
She she was in a movie called Say Anything with Kirk Cameron a couple of years after this, like that, which was about kind of the drama of Debate Club, and
bad movie.
man, but this is the movie where I fell in love with Jamie Gertz.
Wait. Say Anything was John
Well,
Cusack.
not Say Anything. What was?
I know
what
what you're
was the
talking
name?
about. I know the movie you're talking about, but I don't know the name of it now.
You're right. Say Anything was Cusack, obviously.
Cusack and speaking of like Ione Skye and like just these like iconic 80s, actresses.
She also sort of ended her popular era career. Who was the lead guy from Police Academy?
Steve Guttenberg?
She did a terrible rom-com thing with him called Don't Tell Her It's Me, where Steve Guttenberg is dying of cancer and she's like a horrible reporter. It's a really weird movie that's almost worth watching.
Is that Jamie Gertz or
And
Ione
it's
Skye?
Gertz.
Yeah, she made some really bad decisions.
Let's see. 11:10.
But she's so perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Cliff has saved this line. he just wanted to see more Sexomophone.
I did. He's so great. I went to a few concerts in the 80s and never saw metal saxophone.
I've seen a concert at that like bandstand in Santa Cruz, and I didn't get to see sexy sax.
There was no Sexomophone. There was no Jamie Gertz. What's the point, really?
Yeah.
So let's see here. Did I skip one here? Oh, we're jumping a whole bunch now. 14, 16.
You have to go to 14, 16 for the Clampy with his ring light that's in front of a mirror in front of his.
Yep.
In block of my head. It's just a window.
Yeah.
All right.
Here,
I can't wait to hear what you have to say because I have notes too.
Well, I just spent way too long looking at these issues, right? Like I freeze framed this, and here's the kind of nerd I am.
Yeah.
Just like, all right, anything good in there? Like,
We got some, what was that? Some Batman, some Action Comics.
very DC centric.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, right.
I will say that I found, I don't know if anybody had a note about this later, but all of the stuff where he's arguing with the dynamic duo of military goons, like none of it
They have a name, sir, and it's the Frog Brothers.
the other Corey and the kid who has very few lines. But like nothing that they say has any actual like substance really. It's just like a bunch of words. They actually did a really good job of like writing dialogue that sounds like a couple of kids complaining in a comic book shop would sound like. It's not particularly deep.
So Corey Feldman's voice is super deep, like
Yes.
absurdly deep.
I thought that was a
Didn't make
weird
any
acting choice.
It was a super weird acting choice.
I actually really liked that because we were talking a lot about how the two of them as a pair actually felt a lot like you could imagine a Wes Anderson movie where you have like two super quirky characters like acting like as a comedic duo and coming in and doing their little shtick and bouncing out. And they kind of worked that way for me because they're so hyper stylized in terms of fashion. And in terms of like Corey talking in a really weird, affected voice, I mean, I really
You're gonna
liked
have
it.
to kill him. You're gonna have to kill him. You know. Bill, Ted.
That's right.
Oh, is this me? Yeah. Okay. So the thing I was going to mention is that he would almost certainly be getting sand in his eyes, and he would crash his motorcycle. So
Yeah.
This is a movie. Don't do this at home, kids. And it's not okay. This is also hard on the beach.
We were mostly just discussing how
Such
like
a
you would
dad
die.
thing.
You would die. Like there's no way that you can drive at that speed like through a real untended beach and not hit a log or like a leftover cooler.
Well, and there's all these people with their
There's
fires,
people.
and I mean, it's very inconsiderate and deadly.
For Nosferatu, I would have expected better.
It's true. I mean, if you're gonna live forever, you don't want to die in a motorcycle accident. That's a lame way to die.
That's true. They do have a pretty
So-
sweet pad.
I've actually been in this apartment. The only difference was, Joy Division was playing constantly while I was there. Other than that, this looks very familiar to me.
I have a note here too, which is that you can see Schumacher's early inspiration for his Batman and Robin work.
Oh yeah.
Like this looks a lot like the gang caves he uses in that movie too.
Yeah, you have like all the people are like at weird random heights. There's lots of random light sources. I mean, it's comic booky affected for sure. That's the aesthetic.
And there wouldn't be a Lost Boys comic until 2016, although it was a DC Vertigo imprint. So
Well, thank God. Let's see, 2612.
When I was a kid, I thought Laddie, who was in that last shot, was like some sort of Civil War kid that they'd been keeping around for ages.
right,
but
'cause he's wearing the outfit.
he was. I don't know why they had him wear the outfit, because then he appears on a milk jug, and I can't imagine they're still looking for him from the Civil War. So he must be a recent.
Well, it was the 80s, So
In the 80s, you're allowed to have sweet posters like that on your door.
Well, that I had a note on this one. Like that is a handsome picture of Rob Lowe on this teenage boy's door.
Where is
Yeah,
this?
it's an interesting choice.
Where is
I actually-
this?
I was hoping that one of you would have mentioned this because I was like, I don't know, isn't his room is decorated very strangely.
It
I mean,
is.
I think it's okay. They didn't want to come out and say he was bisexual, but like the decorations. I mean,
So
I thought it was very advanced of them.
He's got a girl in front of the car on that side, and there was
Yeah.
I think there was another sexy girl on a different poster. So yeah, he just plays for both teams. That's cool. It seems weird for the 80s that they would do that. But the thing I wondered is where
Was this
is
Grandpa's
this
room?
timeline in the Rob Lowe shenanigans? This must have predated that, right?
What shenanigans?
His sex tape, you mean?
Yeah.
Was
Yes,
it like
I
an
think
18-year-old girl or whatever? Yeah.
Wasn't it like the DNC? Now we're just
I looked-
speculating wildly.
So this is him coming right out of St. Elmo's Fire,
Yeah.
right? And Oxford Blues in his oeuvre. So yeah.
So of the, countless things that this movie, of quotes this movie, gave me and my friends, this "How can a billion Chinese be wrong?" It's just one of the hundreds of quotes that came out of this movie that we used all the time.
Come on.
Is that was I in front of it?
Yeah,
I think
you
it's
passed.
about
It's before.
you passed.
All right. I just need to like subtract 5 from all of Zen's timestamps. Let's see.
Yep. I'm glad to see that y'all are following my Control T to pull the time, cue.
I did nothing, no such thing. But
yeah, you did it
I put my
manually.
code
Me either.
in like 5 minutes before we started, and then all the software went wrong. So.
So my note here is when someone pulls this bottle out at a party, right? It's one of three things, right? It is either a magic elixir, there's a genie in there, or they take their Boone's Farm way too seriously. I mean, all those options are not good. You should probably just leave.
Where I live, it could also be your homemade kombucha.
Oh yeah, it's your Scooby right there. Now, what cracks me up about this is basically they decorated it with the things they decorated their denim jackets with.
Yeah.
You know,
The baubles they found on the beach. That's actually why they ride the motorcycles up and down. They're just looking for like shiny
and whatever
rocks.
sticks to your body as you follow the lead vampire, that gets put on the
Yeah,
bottle.
whatever impacts your flesh and sticks and embeds.
It's not a
That
good
makes sense.
thing to
Yeah,
do.
it does look like something that I probably saw one of the people in my art class in maybe my junior year of college. In sculpture or one of those classes. It looks bad. That's all there is to it.
I like to think there's a middle-aged lady vampire in the back room who's just constantly making crafts.
That's her thing.
Like, I wish Joanne's was open after dark. You know. Yeah.
That's true. Oh, the bridge sequence.
Okay. So here's the thing. So this bridge, they end up hanging from it, and they're like, "Come on, Michael!" Blah! You know, the thing about this bridge is it's maybe 15 feet from the water. You know, like they have this scene and they fuzz it out with like clouds or whatever. But like you could fall, I could fall, and I'm a big person. I shouldn't fall from heights like this, but you'd be fine. It's literally the least intimidating bridge that exists. So that's all I wanted to share with you.
My problem with this whole sequence is that, correct me if I'm wrong, and I might have missed it, they drop one by one, but you never actually see them fly. They just like yell and like you hear sound effects, and they tell him to do it. Again, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm giving the director credit for trying to build up the suspense of like, are they or are they not vampire types of things.
Sure.
That's absolutely why they do all that in here. There's a reason they don't show you the money shot right away,
my problem with it is that I felt like later on in the movie he's then required to fly, but at that point I don't think he's ever actually seen anybody actually fly. I mean, presumably that gorge is over water, so like it's totally plausible that they fell in the water. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not clear that he would even be aware that he was necessarily seeing that they had the ability to fly. Because I got to tell you, if I just met a bunch of people like hanging around on the boardwalk after dark, it takes a lot for me to think, oh, they have the power of flight.
Yeah, but would you hang off of a trestle bridge like that? I mean, no. You wouldn't do any of the things that this person has done.
That's true.
So,
That's true. He leaves a different life than me. For example, he has 2 Corey friends. And at this point in my life, I don't think I have any Corey friends.
So remember how I said I wasn't going to point out every grandpa thing?
You lied?
I lied. Him using the Windex for aftershave to go see the widow is fantastic.
I like that the kids are into it. like, that's our grandpa. He's crazy.
That's our grandpa.
The coolest thing my grandpa ever did was pretended that he was trapped inside of the intercom whenever we came to his house when we were little children. Like, help, let me out. I'm stuck in this box, to try to convince, by the time you're 7 or 8, you're not falling for that. But when you're 4 or 5, you might fall for that. But never aftershave as Windex. That's pretty sweet. I like that the kids like him. Okay, yeah. This scene, man.
I have a note in this, just like it's weird, right? It's weird to have a kid taking a bath scene, because at that age I don't remember taking a lot of baths in the first place. Maybe they don't have a shower, I guess, like because grandpa's old and he doesn't have a TV. But also this song, the maggot scene and this song are the things that I always think of first when I think of this movie, and this is not a good thing to think about for this movie.
And it runs way too long.
Yes.
Like, you could do it, like, okay, Ferris Bueller has like a scrubbing his hair scene, right? Like, but that ain't a bathtub scene, but it's also short and played for like a one-liner and out, not for like, a 40-second long sing-along?
Yeah.
That's for a movie that's an hour and 37 minutes long. Well, I feel like you could do. They were trying.
Well, remember they up-aged this thing so it would be sexy teens, right? So maybe this is like Richard Donner's way of saying, hey, girls find this hairless boy attractive. Let's use him. Which is just gross. So I love this. So I made the obvious comment. You're a creature of the night, Michael, or it didn't work out when you went back in time and slept with your mom, like in Back to the Future. So.
Creature of the night. I'm thinking creature of the night.
Creature of the night.
Of the night.
Creature of the night.
That might be a different thing.
Like a horror thing, yeah. Okay.
Cliff, you had a note here too.
No, I think I'm on the next one.
All right.
But it's the same time.
Oh,
You're talking about the
still
bathrobe.
think
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to give costuming credit in this movie, right? Because the costuming is so on point on every level. Like Haim here wears excellent costumes throughout the entire movie, including this bathrobe.
Yeah,
for sure.
The head vampire guy looks so perfectly late 80s. It hurts my eyes just to see his rolled up cuffs on his jacket. Like, and then the kind of gothy look of the vampire nest. Like, mwah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, like everything Haim wears is like straight out of what was that poster that a bunch of people had?
Were there Corys in it?
No, it's just the patterns and the girls in Varnays and all that stuff. Yeah.
The thing that I was commenting about with this movie is that it's been actually really fun because we watched Tron and The Last Starfighter. And to me, Tron is like the first time where a movie is like, this is the 80s. And The Last but it's still like the beginning of the 80s. And then The Last Starfighter, it's like, okay, we have fully embraced what the 80s are going to look like in all of our aesthetic choices. And then you get to this movie, and here the 80s is beginning to look like the parody of what we think of as the 80s now. Like it's been diluted and distilled down to just what this movie is. The band that looks like Poison. The costumes with like the popped collars and the pastels, like we've got like everything about this movie now is the 80s has parodied itself within the 80s, and when our children come back and think of the 80s, I imagine that the style from this movie is probably what they're going to think of.
Yeah. This is an important historical document.
Oh, a living record. Big jump now.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Like he was freaking out because of the whole vampire thing, and then he's like, "But yeah, definitely making out and having sex will take care of this vampire problem we've got."
But
Well, you know, he is a young man, Chris. You know,
A young vampire man. Yes.
yeah,
he has
Or
vampire
not
needs.
quite, because they haven't killed you yet.
easily swayed and distracted.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think that the Solar Babies thing was more about. All right.
Well, I mean, my thoughts here is that, I mean, I was a teenager at one point, it seems like this is way too like loving for what kids in this age would probably be doing. Like, I feel like it would be a little bit more, I don't know, a little more frantic or something, a little more energetic.
That's because you were a teenager in the 90s. In the 80s, teenagers, because I was a teenager in the 80s, it was all about love, man.
Speak for yourself, Rob Mulder.
Was Jason Patrick supposed to be a teenager in this movie? Because like I had a hard time nailing down his age actually a couple of times, and a couple of shots I thought like that dude's obviously 29 years old.
Yeah,
right.
He for sure is in his 20s.
He's knocking on his 30s right now.
Wait a second. Wait. He was born in 1966, and this was 1986, so he was 30. No, 20 years old. Yeah.
Sorry.
And that's reasonable.
He just has old face.
I was surprised when that Kiefer was 17 when he was shooting this movie.
What?
Yeah.
Because he also looks like
30.
he's, knocking on 45 in some of his scenes.
He was 20.
Oh, was he?
So yes, this came out in 86. He was born in 66, same year as Patrick. So
Well,
maybe
when they were
they were
shooting
shooting it a year before. But yeah.
So after they make sweet love to each other over several very slow motion minutes of cameras fading into each other, we get to have a very long flying through the clouds in helicopters scene.
Yeah.
But you had these scenes in the 80s, right? Like these kind of mood music, little music videos embedded right in the middle of a movie.
Yep.
We're still figuring out movies back then.
They hadn't developed it yet.
Hell, Highlander was basically just a Queen video.
And wasn't it freaking great?
Who wants to live forever?
There's no time for us. All right. So he this is the when you get their first inkling that he's a vampire because he needs to be invited in. And I was thinking to myself, well, wait a second, so is this like vampire restriction like threshold based, or like do they have to like wait outside a property boundary, or is it like an inside outside thing? Do they need like assessor's maps? Like suppose your house is a little bit in somebody else's property. Do you have to get the permission of that property owner to enter the house? I'm just saying.
Nope, it's threshold based.
Is it threshold?
You'd have your house blessed back in the day, and that's
Yeah.
what kept the vampire out.
Oh.
Now,
okay.
if you're a king and you become a vampire, does dominion over your lands allow you to enter into your serfs' lands?
I'd say no, but in this movie, the vampires end up going in this house without being invited.
Yeah.
No,
like-
they're invited. Remember?
So,
You're the man of the house, and I'm not coming in until you invite me.
You're invited.
Awkward.
right, he is invited,
Yeah.
but they never invite Kiefer and the gang, right?
Do they ever
They
come
just
inside?
pop
though?
in.
But
When do they
Dutch,
come inside?
In the
At
final
the
battle.
very end of the movie.
Oh, okay.
I feel like though maybe like he's
It is
more
genetic.
vampire.
Right, I think what they were going with is since he was in charge,
You're the
they
king
all
vampire.
they all get entrance too, but I don't know. It seems-
They inherit the permission.
Maybe
Right.
he's
Through
like
their
a.
bloodline.
Maybe it's actually like totally optional. It doesn't. There's no magical power or anything whatsoever. But he's a.
just an
but
old-fashioned
he's a
vampire.
fundamentalist.
yeah,
you
he's
know,
just old fashioned.
He's old fashioned. He's been at this game for a while.
So I just like in my note here, I had noted that we're like a little over an hour into the movie, and this is the first time they like show full on vampire face, which I think is a good choice
Yeah.
overall. Like, because of the slightly sketchy,
Choices.
special effects work, but also because that's the point of this movie is they're trying to build up a are they or aren't they tension until it's obvious. And
Yeah.
It's obvious that the prosthetics are going to be a
I
problem.
read a lot yesterday about kind of the makeup scene here too, and kind of the design choices that went behind the makeup and the different prosthetics for the different actors and everything. And yeah, they were very thoughtful about it. I'm not sure it all worked, but they were very thoughtful.
I like that they didn't go too over the top. For the most part.
For the most
As you
part.
show the most over the top scenes.
Well, this isn't even that bad. I'm talking about like, for me, when they have the scene coming up of them hanging upside down, and he has bat feet. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's silly. Oh,
But some sharp teeth.
Yeah, that's a
and
step too far.
contacts, that doesn't bother me.
yeah, and just like a little tiny bit of a prosthetic on the forehead there.
Well, it's really, it's funny because, we earlier saw the taxidermy of Grandpa Bernard Hughes. If you think about it, they telegraphed that they were going to use a mountain lion style tooth arrangement as opposed to a more traditional, eye tooth
Yeah.
arrangement
That's what they
for the
meant.
vampires.
That's what they meant.
I think it's very thoughtful. That's all I'm saying.
That's quality filmmaking.
So yeah, so there was a point where I was watching this and I was like, man, this is so Goonies. Like they have all these like scenes, especially with the Coreys and the rest, where I'm just like, guys, stop. This is not Goonies. Stop being Goonies.
Right?
It is. In
It's like
fact,
Richard Donner couldn't leave it behind. So,
my least favorite part of this movie, the sort
right?
of
It's just so dumb.
slapstick stuff about it.
And the Goonies was like a year before this, so they Donner obviously filmed it before this. It's like, ugh,
Yeah, this feels very Donner.
yeah, it's super Donner.
But in all fairness, Goonies is very Steven Spielberg. He's always criticized that he should have been given a co-director credit because he was on set so much and working with the kids because I guess he's good with kids for some reason,
He's a decent filmmaker, it turns out. Who knew?
right?
So I'm I admit I sometimes indulge in a bit of nostalgia. So I worked at a video store in the 80s, right? Called Video Galaxy in Reston, Virginia. And all those puffy, boxes of movies. I'm just like, wow, man.
Yeah.
That was the market quality. You spent $90 on a movie when it looks like that, So anyway,
Well, they would have the fancy puffy boxes on the display racks, but then when you got it in the cheap piece of plastic. I mean,
yeah, but we weren't a big operation like Hollywood Video or Blockbuster. Come on, man.
See, I remember the first videos that we ever rented, and it was like Empire Strikes Back was one of them, and I remember them coming in fancier boxes, and I wish that that was something that continued because makes it an event, makes it feel special.
Yeah. Yeah, this scene. I admit again, I was doing a lot of the water carrying for you jerks as we got later in the movie.
Oh, for sure.
I was just like, why didn't you just cut the darn leash? It's like why is it so
80s.
hard?
This whole scene felt very 80s and also a little Donner to me, right? With everybody yelling at the same time, making really dumb decisions, and
it's like, this is stupid.
It's a cheap way to increase drama in a movie.
Yeah.
But they're yelling, so my adrenaline has to get upped too.
It's like, all that screaming, it's not helping, it's hurting the cause. You're probably freaking the dog out. Just, if you walk over and you just go, and then boom, he's free.
Or, I know Rosewoman's a dog lover, but I gotta say, I'd let my dog die to the vampires in a situation like that.
That's not going to go after the dog,
That's because you have no heart.
Yeah. Wait till your students find out.
Oh, they know. Well, I guess you get new students every year, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and they're unaware of what happened to 7 to 12% of the previous
they're all
class.
Streaming now. They're all streaming or deferred now. So
yeah,
that's probably safer, given that Cliff might actually be a vampire who eats several of his students per year,
and a dog.
Allegedly. I've heard people
allegedly. I gotta get that t-shirt.
I am, in fact, wearing.
Are you wearing it?
You're welcome.
Thank you. I have to remember to order that.
All right, who had 121 here? Very hard.
Oh yeah, I just mentioned. So all this stuff happens, and I just said, "Wow, this is really hard on the plumbing."
Yeah.
It's like.
I mean, I know there was a scene earlier where, like, the Frog Brothers talk about how vampires all die in different ways, but this seems like a particularly weird way for vampires to die, by destroying the plumbing.
Yep. It's a mess, man. Jeez.
Been there.
Yeah, right. I have small children. That's my toilet like twice a week.
So gross.
You should feed them things that aren't poison.
Well,
Why start now?
That's true.
This death by stereo was such a stupid way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Stereo's don't do that.
I don't want to get the strike for this line.
Yeah.
Death by stereo.
Yeah, see.
Wow.
But at the same time, new band name.
It was well delivered though. I mean,
true.
you got to give Corey Haim credit here. He's trying to sell the line.
He's committed. I would expect no less from 50% of America's Corey reserves in the late 80s.
This was about the point in the movie when I got really sick of everybody yelling. But I had to put myself in place. Like, would I be yelling that much under a vampire attack? Probably.
I don't know. I think you'd be so jacked up, so scared and full of adrenaline that you wouldn't say anything. I think it'd be very quiet until the very end.
Yeah, I think I'd just be immediately dead. Yeah. I don't expect I'd make it. Like, I'm the guy that dies first in the horror movie because I would have all the sex. Yeah, when you have all the sex, you die first.
And that's pretty hard on the plumbing too.
Ouch. All right.
Well, the way Rob does it, it is.
Yeah, I do it differently. It's a lot rougher than the love making that those two teenagers theoretically were doing,
As we've already discussed.
as established.
Pause it there, okay? So, oh shit. Okay, so here's the thing: you might have noticed that Jason Patrick's teeth were developed on his eye teeth and not on his inner bicuspids. So I just want to point out that was an inconsistency that I noticed.
So you want to like write an angry letter to the teeth guy?
It's just if you're gonna commit, commit.
So
Yeah,
my
the other
note-
thing I was gonna say. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
This is yours, Clam.
I mean, my note here is that it appears that David here is dying on horns.
Yeah.
Right? He's impaled by horn, and I don't think horns count.
See, I don't think they do either. And even when I saw this the first time, if you look where the antelope horns go,
Yeah, not in his heart.
I think it would miss his heart.
So after I wrote that note, I actually read up on this a little bit, and there's a whole kind of fan theory set of things out there that says that David actually survives this, right? And goes on and forms a kind of a new group of vampires. And the Lost Boys sequel is actually one of the head vampire there is one of his children. So there's a continuity of universe where David survives and walks away from this. Maybe he just faked him out. Like he's like, oh crap, this vampire battle's not going great. I'm gonna pretend these horns killed me.
So it's like that one accounted for Skrull in Captain Marvel that fanboys will now spend the next 12 movies wondering where it is until a writer gets around to pulling that out of the deck and playing it.
Yeah.
Did somebody have the music here?
Yeah, I just really love this. Thou shalt not fall.
It goes on too long.
Oh, for sure. But it's the 80s,
You could do that in the 80s. You could just breathe. Let the atmosphere breathe.
And the reveal of Herman being the head vampire was pretty sweet too, right? At the time, like that was a nice twist, and you'd kind of suspected it if you're paying attention to the clues, but still, like that was a great kind of, I think.
Yeah, because they take the time to have that whole scene where they try to expose him, and everything they do just doesn't work. So you're like, oh, well, maybe he isn't after all.
Yeah.
My wife immediately spoiled it for me. The moment he comes on screen,
Yep, that's the guy.
She's like, you know how in every movie there's two extra characters, and one of them is gonna die, and the other one is gonna be the head vampire. That was his secret. And I was like, oh, yep, I guess you're right. And they were both on the screen, so it was gonna either be Grandpa or him.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Grandpa,
and you can't kill Grandpa.
Mom, no! Mom!
Pause it. You're gonna get copyright strike. So let's set the scene. Remember, it's been a while since we've seen Grandpa. He ostensibly went over to the girlfriend's house, but when he got there, he knew what was going on because he's Grandpa, right?
And he already paid for whatever was going to happen with the various taxidermies and pelts that he trades with the neighbor women.
Mm-hmm.
Although when he does kill him here with the giant, fence post that goes through him, and he's walking up to
do it. Ah,
there it is.
That's good.
And it's a great shot, And
explosions. Every movie should just have them.
So they set it up here after he gets out. Everyone's sort of shell-shocked. And he goes up to the fridge. And they're talking to him. And they're setting him up like he might be a vampire after all. Because at this point, someone has to be the head vampire, right? And then he delivers the best line of the whole freaking movie.
Yeah.
Right?
One thing about living in Santa Carla I never could stomach. All the damn vampires.
Bum, bum, bum.
And the look on their face is just like...
Oh.
It's so good.
Cool.
That's the end of the movie.
I'd like to see the scene after that where they're like, "Hey, jerk, you couldn't tell us there were a ton of vampires in town."
Right?
We've
why
been
would we have us
Carol
coming
for days. Heads up, huh?
Right? It's kind of sucks here. We want to go back to wherever we were before.
He's kind of not a good father or grandfather.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think he just wanted to see what they had. You know what I mean? He's like, all right, if I'm gonna protect you from the hordes of the undead, you guys gotta last for an hour on your own.
I gotta see what you're made of.
Grandpa's not always gonna be around. It's for your own good. This is tough love, gentlemen.
Remember the thing where I was playing tennis? That was a test.
Yep, tough love at its best.
That was a beautiful movie. I mean, a great combination of music and costuming, fairly tight storyline, like a lot of weird little choices that I just chalk up to be in the 80s, but you can see why this is a cult classic.
This is a great movie.
For sure. And like I said, I didn't really remember it. I know I had seen it, but it's just filled with a lot of little iconic moments that have kind of been referenced too. I mean, like even like the Simpsons episode where they have where Burns is a vampire or whatever. Like there's little references in there. You got to kill the head vampire. Like they carry that through. This stuff really seeped into the popular culture, and it's charming for what it is.
Yep, I thoroughly enjoyed watching this again.
But that leads us to the real question, Rob.
Yeah.
What's happening? What's happening next week?
So here it is. We're going to take a little bit of a departure. All the movies we've watched so far have some element of sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We're not going to watch anything that's sci-fi, or I guess you could argue maybe horror. We're going to watch a movie that is very near and dear to my heart. We're going back to 1986. Corey's in it. We're going to watch one of my favorite movies, Stand By Me.
Oh, nice choice.
So it's another movie
too
where
good?
Corey Haim is antagonized by Kiefer Sutherland.
A little bit.
But it's got
And actually, that movie came out just the year before this one. These were like back to back.
yeah.
So nice.
We're gonna have to like talk seriously about our feelings and stuff, or are we just gonna make fun of Will Wheaton?
We're definitely going to make fun of Will Wheaton.
For sure.
You're pronouncing it weird.
No, I'm not. I just said Will Wheaton.
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 Wheaton. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Cliff.
Yeah, it's fun. Thanks, guys.
So this has been episode 503 of Geeks in Space. I already said goodbye to the very fine Professor Dr. Cliff Arthur Cochise Lampy. And
Thank you.
The rising star of University of Michigan.
the one day dean of some new school that he will invent. Thank you, Chris DeBona.
Thank you for having me. I love doing these.
And thank you, Rob Roseboom.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Rob Commander Taco Malda. We'll see you tomorrow with the news, and we'll talk about vampires probably about the same amount.